Welcome to the second part, planning and route in the webinar Self-Supported Touring in the Himalayas, a presentation from 2015 where I captured the learning and plannings of several long journeys on motorcycle, cycle touring and ultra running in the Himalayas. In the second part, we're gonna touch a few more challenges of self-supported journeys and then talk a little bit more specifically on ultra running. What does it take to run through the Himalayas? We'll talk about different types of cycles, how to plan a group for a self-supported journey, talk about route planning, the importance of the seasons, planning your travel of yourself and as well as your cycle and motorbike, and the overnight stays. You can find the HD quality videos of the entire series on YouTube and my blog ultrajourneys.org. A 10-minute preview is available on InstaTV and Facebook. Okay, a few more challenges continuing from the previous part. Daylight is of course very important. As you go further north away from the equator, you will have a longer day during the summer, that is, so which is anyway the case. You're gonna mostly go from May till September to the Himalayas when the high passes are open. So during summer actually it can easily be light there till 8:30 in the evening, which gives you pretty long days, 12 to 14 hours at your disposal. You of course always have to plan that you reach your place of night halt, your place of dinners before the night falls, otherwise it becomes more challenging, also a bit dangerous to go in the night on those difficult roads sometimes. You also don't want to get into bad weather at night. Typically the weather window is much more stable during the early morning hours and before noon in the high passes. As you make a plan every day, it depends not only on distance, on elevation gain, but also on the challenges, the rain, the climate, how much time you spend on getting food, eating food, the rest stops and the repairs along the way. So that typically sometimes makes it a little bit difficult to reach your night stays every day. Something will happen that the actual day will not always be equal to the planned day. Of course, you have to carry lights and a little bit of extra food to ensure that even if you have to get through the night, you can make it safely. Mechanical issues for the runner, no issues. For the motorcycle, I'm not gonna focus too much on biking. That's a different story. We'll take that separately. For cycling, you need to focus on the most common points of failure, which is punctures, brakes, chains, and gears. So you simply carry a couple of tools with you, like a puncture kit. Puncture you're not gonna have too much because you're staying on the road, much less than when you go do some off-roading, say in South India, in some trails. An Allen key is a universal key to remove anything and fix anything. A chain tool in case your chain breaks. There can be a lot of strain on the chain as you stand on your pedals and push hard to go uphill with the cycle through bad terrain and heavy load. And brakes are very vulnerable as you do a lot of downhill. When the brakes get wet, when they get dusty, there's a lot of wear and tear. So brake pads I'm saying here, but preferably don't go with V brakes in the hills, only go with disc brakes. Of course, the runner has direct contact with the road, so there will be high impact on the shoes and the nails. Make sure your nails are cut short. Dehydration is a major challenge, so you need to keep yourself hydrated at all times. You might not feel it at this colder climate or higher altitudes, but water intake is very important. Major impact for the high impact running is of course the ankles and the knees, just like on the cycle, the gears and the chain. The feet and will have the biggest impact, so shoe bites are a big one. Long distance running, you really need to take care of proper shoe wear. I would say zero drop white feet shoes with minimalist, not too minimalist because they need to take the impacts of 5, 6, 700 kilometers of running in a short period of time. So there has to be a good sole that protect your feet from so much of impact. Duration, of course, there is a big difference between going for a weekend run in the hill versus touring for like running 2 weeks, 700 kilometer in the hills. Here you can see two pictures. The top right after a 100 kilometer run in the Koli Hills or the Javadu Hills in South India. On the left side, you can see after running 600 kilometer in the Himalayas. So you can see bearded guys with more wear and tear on the face than just from a weekend. So are you ready? Of course, running and cycling with all these challenges we have discussed in these two parts, higher altitudes, off-road, loaded with gears, up and downhill, climate, continuous period is challenging. So don't go there unprepared, please. You need to do a good number of practice runs or cycle trips in smaller hills in South India, in the plains, before you venture in the hills. Not just for yourself, but also to test your gears, your shoes, your cycle or your bike. Ultra running is really special in the sense that you're going in a very minimalist way without any human invented means of transportation, the cycle, the bike. You're actually going on your own feet. And it really gives you like what we could say a tribal, a very raw experience, just like our forefathers used to run behind food, hunting. We can still see those cave drawings, hunting animals. The same way, you're also gonna really reconnect with your roots. Your body is built to run, but as of generations of comfort level in the city, you have not utilized that body well. So ultra running needs a little bit of experience. You cannot run for 2 weeks, 40, 50 kilometers per day. So in my case, I started running in 2013, very consistently. For running, it's all about two rules. One, consistency. Second one, about patience. You don't want to do it too quickly, too soon, too fast. You want to take it easy. I started with 10 by 10 series where for 10 continuous days you run 10 kilometers in the neighborhood. So that for 7 series gave me like 700 kilometers of consistent running practice over a couple of months in 2013. Kept running through 2014 and 15, and then 2 years later I was ready for running actually long distances in the Himalayas. It still was quite a challenge. Part of my practice planning was also to run regularly weekends in the hills. I did some 4 hill ultras in 2015, which is almost 80% of the weekends you're spending in the mountains to train your legs to run in trails and in elevation. Outdoors, again, running and doing the self-supported journeys, carrying your own camping gears is also that connection with the forefathers who used to live in the open in jungles and caves. So having a campfire, camping over in the wild, in the mountains, is really a unique experience that reconnects you with your past. The right kind of wheels in case you cycle. What kind of bike are you gonna use? A road bike, a touring bike, a hybrid, or an MTB? MTB stands for mountain biking, the ones that are really meant for the mountains with the thick tubes for managing any types of terrain, good suspension, and a lot of gears to go steep uphill. Hybrid bikes are somewhere in between the regular city road bikes and the mountain bikes. A hybrid bike has a more lightweight build, it's not that sturdy, but it would still be my preferred way as long as you stay on the road. A hybrid with two requirements, I would say, a good front suspension and disc brakes will be the best compromise for the mountains. It won't have the gears, of course, of a mountain bike, but those big tires really, even though they add comfort in bad roads, they add a lot of a lot of rolling resistance. So that means you'll have to push much harder on a mountain bike compared on a hybrid. And then of course we have the touring bikes, which you will see all the Europeans who have been biking for 6 months all the way from Europe to the Himalayas. Those guys actually use a touring bike, which is a combination again of a hybrid, very sturdy bike, very proper build, usually with disc brakes. Brake pads don't survive too long in the mountains, but with a special touring saddle And sometimes they will use like a road bike steering wheel, which allows them to cycle at different positions so that their back doesn't become strained cycling in the same position for months altogether. Group selection is very important. You don't want to go with random people you just met. You can only survive for 24 hours a day for 2 weeks with like-minded people with a good fitness level. You don't want to go with 10 people. It's too many different minds with too many choices, too many discussions, too much of complications. You don't want to include one slow guy, which is going to mess up the entire tour. So people have to really be of the same attitude and fitness level. Beautiful are these combination groups where some of the guys cycle, some of the guys run. The runners have the benefit that they don't carry much luggage, so they can share the weight of the cyclist during travel, during flights, avoiding having to pay extra to carry that cycle on the flight. Cycles have the benefits, of course, that they can carry more luggage in the mountains and keep the runners more light. So it's a win-win situation to have a combo of runners and cyclists. Planning the route then. So one sample route I did here from Srinagar to Manali in 2015 over some 500 kilometers, which became then almost 600 once I reached Manali. Here we just show to Gramfu, which is on the other side of the Rotang Pass. So here we planned for 12 days of leave. All of us usually working corporate, so leave is a precious resource. We had to subtract 2 days of travel, giving us only a net of 10 days running cycling. As one of the guys, one person was running here and three people were cycling, we could only cover 50k per day. More than that, I don't think it's realistic for a normal person. And then, so that gives us a total mileage of 500k, having to cross two passes. One is the Sintan Top in JNK and one is the Rotang Pass on the way to Manali. Proper acclimatization is important. You cannot start off your route at very high altitudes. You have to start at something maximum of 2000 meter and then gradually go up. You also have to plan, of course, the seasons. You cannot do this traverse when the passes are closed or when it's like too much of monsoon rain. So all this is important when you plan your route. Planning the seasons, especially when you go to the Himalayas, I would only suggest end of May, June till September when the passes are open. Otherwise, you'll have to take U-turn, which is not that interesting. You really want to go across those passes and hit the valleys on the other sides. You're gonna go here from 1500 to 4000 meter altitude, so that's a serious variation in terms of altitude. Proper acclimatization is important. Day and night temperatures will be quite extreme. It will be cold in the night, very warm, very intense sun in the day. Monsoon hits the lower Himalayas at July, August, so you don't want to get stuck in that or it's not going to be pleasant. You're going to, getting through rains for a week, it's going to become wet, wet, wet and messy after some time. Here is the elevation profile of this specific trip from Srinagar to Manali. You can see those two spikes in between. One is the Sintan Top, which gets you from out of Srinagar into Jammu in the beautiful Chenab River Valley. I mean, initially just in another valley, but then eventually you get to the Chenab River Valley and the Pangi Valley. Slowly and gradually go up, which is the perfect way to acclimatize, and then eventually climb over the Rotang Pass to exit at Manali. So the only challenge here with this specific route is that on day 2-3 you're climbing to almost 4000 meters over the Sintan Top, which is gonna hit you, but no other choice in this specific route. Planning of your travel is a piece of cake for a runner, but if you're gonna carry along your transportation, like your cycles or motors, you'll have to properly plan. It's important to plan your flights in advance as they become pretty expensive close to the days. So book your flight tickets, fix your dates well in advance, 2-3 months. Book cheap flights and then you're all set. You check typically for airports close to your start and ending destination so that you can minimize travel. And then of course, like say when we ended in Manali, you also check expense. A flight from Kulu will be a little expensive. A flight to Leh Ladakh will be expensive. So you can also go for a cheaper location and then cover the remaining distance with a bus. As you travel with either bus or flight, you need to keep your cycles boxed up so that there is no damage. Flight timing is important. Don't just look at the dates, but also the timing so that you minimize wasting time on travel. 2 days out of 10 days is more than you can afford with limited corporate leaves. Cycle packing and transportation is pretty simple. You just remove the cycle wheels, any good brand, you can easily dismount. Remove the pedals, remove the steering wheel. You nicely stick it up together, put it in some packing and put it in any empty cycle box. Ready to go on the flight, ready to go on the bus. It's pretty nice, a cycle, in the sense that you get typically 15 to 20 kg of check-in luggage on if you include check-in luggage, which is more than enough to carry your cycle. Cycle is usually 15 kg, another 3 kg for packing and your gears like metals, which you cannot carry on the flight, and you're ready to check in. If you travel out of the country, like say Vietnam or Sri Lanka, which we did a couple of years ago, make sure to fill up a customs form so that you don't have to pay import duty when you take your cycle back to India. Overnight stay again. Do you depend on lodging? I would not really require. As you go to touristic places, no problem. Like say Manali, Leh, a lot of stay options available there. No need for carrying tents with you. You will find villages and lodging and rooms and even tent camps temporarily set up during the summer season. If you go to more remote places like Spiti and Pangi, then it might be wise to carry your tent, as you might not always reach a village to stay. Even in some villages, again, it becomes quite expensive for rooms, so carrying your own tents will reduce your cost significantly. Of course, you're gonna add some weight, as a two-person tent, a T2 from Decathlon is easily 2.2 kg. Sleeping bag is easily 700 grams. A mat is another 300 grams. So you're easily carrying, if you're on a two-person sharing basis with one tent, you're easily carrying 1.8 kg per head on camping gears, which is gonna fully end up in one cycle if one of the people is running. Okay, thanks for watching this presentation on self-supported touring, either through running or cycling or biking through the Himalayas. Tune back in for the final part 3, where we're going to talk more about gears and schedule. Find all the webinars on my blog ultrajourneys.org.